So the book I want to talk about is my most recent book called The Three Big Questions for a Frantic Family. Now understand this, I'm a consultant to CEOs and senior executive teams in organizations. So this is a book I wrote somewhat by accident. But in my work with, and I started my company 11 years ago this month, and my twin boys are 10 and a half years old, and I have a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, all boys. So my family life and the company and the consulting firm I started have occurred at the same time. Well, in the course of my work with CEOs and senior executives, we'd get talking about their families. And inevitably, we'd talk about the importance of family, and almost every executive I've ever worked with said, you know, Pat, my family is much more important to me than my company. And they really seem to believe it, you know. And I believe that about myself, too. And then I'd ask them, so what do you do at home to manage your family? They said, oh, my family's so crazy. It's chaotic and frantic. And then I'd ask them, how much time do you spend planning and having meetings about, offsites, clarifying your strategy as a family? And they'd laugh. You know, who does that? And then it occurred to me that the family is an organization, the most important organization in our lives. And yet, wherever we work, whether it's a church or a company or a school, we spend time planning and having offsite meetings and strategy sessions and clarifying our values and doing everything we can to maximize the output of our organizations. And at home, we just wing it. And it occurred to me also that probably we're not using the resources God gave us to the fullest extent that we can. It begs the question, why? Why would we abdicate responsibility for managing our families if we manage every other organization we're involved in? And I think it's because of that horrible thing you've probably heard about called unconditional love. You see, if we don't manage our work, we can get fired. We don't manage our finances, we can lose our money. But we're not going to get fired from our family, right? They're going to love us no matter what. So we've kind of come to accept that if life is a little bit chaotic, well, the family down the street's just as chaotic as we are. And who does that kind of thing? I'm not going to be the dorky family that has an offsite meeting and, you know, gets out the whiteboard. And they're going to love me no matter what, so I'm just going to give myself a break on this one. Well, as my family started to grow, one day I came home, and I'm pretty sure I said this to my wife. I wrote this in the book, in the fiction I wrote. I think I said to my wife, you know, if my clients ran their organizations the way we run this family, they'd go out of business. She didn't really like that very much. But the truth is, it made me think, what is it that my clients do that I help them figure out how to do that you could apply at home? And certainly not everything we do in our businesses applies at home. I can't fire your children or your spouse or anything like that. And there's a lot of things that don't apply. But there are some definite concepts from the world of work when it comes to creating healthy organizations that can help us have healthier families. And that's what I want to go over today, the three big questions. Before I do, though, let me just say this. The only way for us to get better at stewarding the resources God gave us, our families, whether our families we're empty nesters or we're just starting a family or we don't have kids, no matter what's going on in our family, the only way we can properly steward these resources is if we create greater context for our families. Context is what we lack. And without context, ladies and gentlemen, we experience great guilt. I know so much guilt. That's probably the worst thing about being a parent. And we don't have enough courage to make the difficult decisions that we all know need to be made to have a great home life. So let's talk about the three big questions for a frantic family.